Welcome, 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 welcome. Wait, as I'm pressing buttons over here. That's divine timing right there. Stop for that cleansing aspect. Is that cleansing aspect? Ooh. Welcome to another Friday night lectures. Emancipation Proclamation. Now, if you haven't heard that Breakfast Club when Dr. Umar Johnson said the thing about that being transfer ownership, and then it was one of those things when I thought about attachment, when I really thought about attachment based on taking things for face value so you don't feel left out, or these aspects based on attachment, not really taking this true responsibility or accountability for self. Emancipation, when I first learned about emancipation, it was that some white kid. It was like way back in like the 90s, late 90s, where this one kid was fighting for his freedom away from his parents so he can do his thing that he wanted to do. So when we think about emancipation simply means to remove self or to free yourself from the aspects of attachments of old morals and beliefs. That's the definition that I've used and I build upon. Proclamation is to proclaim something. So when I put emancipation and proclamation together, if I proclaim that I'm a God, as I emancipate myself, I'm freeing myself from the constraints. Yeah. I'm freeing myself from the constraints that do not match where I'm at based on this attachment. He divorced his parents. Taking this aspect into our minds of taking ourselves forward, it goes into this space of when you start doing your shadow work, when you going into your shadow work, when you building into yourself, when you actually start that building process, that feeling of them layers being removed, that is exposing your attachments. It's exposing the definition of what you used based on the filter of staying safe inside of a certain space. So for something like me, I will never to myself deny myself and keep myself in a lower aspect and saying that I'm independent. Because when I listen to this word and what it triggers in my mind is being in a constant state of independency. I'm independency. I'm independent. I'm independency. So no matter how far ahead I go with myself, no matter how far I seem to want to grow, advance, I'm always dependent upon something needing something from me. I'm dependent upon something needing something from me, or I'm dependent in the aspect of the thought process of the only way that I can say that I'm independent is by having other people or other places, ideas, or thoughts that are in a state of dependence. Even when you go into the state, I've used this before. I used this breakdown before. When you look at an independent artist in music, you look at an independent artist. At some point in time, in their building their independence, they have to apply or merge with something else in order to learn something in that space. So when we think about our independence, when we think about that aspect of you growing, you becoming free, you have to understand the things that are around you. Everything down here is your train. This is your training ground. This is your training space. So everything down here is something that you can learn from. So if I spend most of my time based on my filter, I'm a black man and I'm this and they don't like us and all of this, and I keep my mind in this thought process. Niggas ain't shit, bitches ain't shit, niggas don't love me, bitches. I'll keep myself into this mindset of this being So now I'm building my foundation off of the trauma, off of that event. So I'm stuck building my entire process off the trauma and off of an event. So now when I need to expand, now when I need to upgrade myself, I gotta wait. I'm stuck in an aspect of time. There was a point in time, even for myself, where some of us, for a lot of us, we don't understand the aspects of sacrifice because we take it into the aspect of the emotional impulse of suffering. We connect it to where we become dependent to the emotional impulse of suffering. So when we think about sacrifice, we think it's something that's supposed to make us feel bad. It's something that's supposed to make us feel some type of way based on thought. So when you think about the aspect of sacrifice and you think about the impulse, you're thinking about the thought. So you're attached to the thought of what everything you're thinking about, what you have to give away or what you start bartering with. This is the first aspect of you lying to yourself, because you have to, like, and the main understanding of this is human thought is the highest level that you can go in your mindset. Yes. I use like the best example that I use for me now in the aspect of being an independent podcast, like when I do my podcast, everything for my podcast is done in house. The music, the video ad treatments, everything that I'm doing, it's all in house. The only thing that's not in house is my hosting platform. But now I'm working on learning the aspects of the hosting platform and understand it's just simply putting my code out, sending out my RSS feed to iTunes and going into that nature. So in that space, yes, I am aware that I'm independent based on being with whatever host that I'm using to distribute my podcast. But as I'm getting deeper into the aspects, it's becoming more of an outsource because I'm learning from that space. I'm submitting myself to this space to learn. When you're in this aspect of you coming into your sacrifice, when you're truly sacrificing, it's for the highest aspect of your highest self. It's not for the aspect of that thought process of the human thought. This is where we always heard Bobby Hemming was talking about. It's time to stop bringing the kids down here. It's time to come. There's certain things that you just need to stop doing because you're getting stuck on, well, maybe I need to do this, or maybe this need to happen, or that's not what it's for. If that comes through for you, and most people are getting stuck within these anchors. You're getting stuck within these aspects that are keeping you away, that are keeping you attached, so you can have another day to say to yourself that, you know what, I can't do this right now because I got to go do this. I can't do this right now because I got to go do this. And I got to do this. But in the reality of it, that's your ego or the filters that you're putting into your ego. Those filters that you put onto yourself. Most of the filters that you put on you, most filter that someone put on themselves is that they'll say that they're good. They'll say that they're bad. They'll say that they're real. You'll say all of these filters, but they have nothing to do with your authentic self. Because in the reality, think about it like this. I've said this before in lectures. You're a real nigga, bad bitch, thug, whatever you use, pro-militant, whatever you may be. How real or how authentic is this aspect that you're using to define yourself if it can be mass produced in everything from media to music to everything else? They had a whole entire fucking movie, if no one's ever seen Undercover Brother 2, where they had woke juice and super woke. And they had every single stereotype and filter that you can think of in the movie when it came to woke people, when it came to people being conscious and being woke. So how authentic are you? I'm not authentic. I'm the authentic. The authentic aspects of me are everything based in the design of how I move, me being myself, how I speak, my studies, my awareness, my emotional maturity, my healing process. All of this stuff is bridging the gap to bring me into my authentic self. So I'm not looking at it based on, if I say this, then people aren't going to listen to me, or people aren't going to like me, or I'm not stuck in caring. I'm not attached to the aspect of I need to get more views. I need to get to this. I need to get to this, because that's all based in my fucking thought process. That's all of the thought. That's all based on impulse. When you move on impulse, you have a hard time pulling back. When you move on impulse, you have a hard time on when you moving on that impulse, that emotional impulse. That means you'll sit there and you'll have a whole conversation, and then you'll sit there and be like, "I'm done with it. Fuck it." Think about it like when you at your job and you have a whole fucking tantrum at your fucking job, and then at the end of it, you're like, you sitting there, you go get quiet, you sitting in a corner somewhere, and then you go into the office and you go talk to your boss and be like, "Yo, I'm going through some things, and I'm a lot stressed out, and it was like a lot built up, and you try to now you're trying to backstep. Now you're trying to backstep. You sitting here screaming out that you're independent, and you don't need this, and you don't need this, you don't need this. But at the end of the day, when you get what you are, when you get what's actually, we don't get into the aspect, when you get what is actually going to be the mirror that's going to be shown in front of you, this is when you want to step back. Stand in your truth. The problem is with your truth, it has nothing to do with you being real. It has nothing to do with an external validation. Everything that I say, everything that I speak on, every time that I'm doing something, it's in that moment. It's not based on impulse. It's based on that aspect of what I've already cultivated within myself. I'm not thinking about going back, because I'm doing the aspects of the work and the discipline to be able to speak at that level, to speak at the level that I speak at. If something now comes back up, yes. When something comes back up, that means something comes back up I'm now aware, because I'm learning the pattern that every time I say this, every time that I do this, every time that I act this way, I'm taking responsibility. I'm taking accountability. I have I'm aware of what I'm doing. I'm not basing it on the fear-based narrative of I can't start there's no more excuses. There's no more excuses. There's no more excuses to do what you need to fucking be doing. There's no more excuses. Someone can't come and tell me and give me the aspect of, yo, man, like it's hard trying to get your content out there and doing all of this stuff. It's like, what are you thinking about? What is your initial underlying intention of what you're trying to do? What is your underlying intention of what it is that you are trying to accomplish within that space? For a lot of individuals, we put the byproduct first. We put the byproduct first, and we put our energy and our mindset into the byproduct. So someone is sitting there and think about, yo, I want to make more money. So you put all of your power and your energy into the byproduct of your internal the internal workings of yourself. Every time that you put your energy into something in an external fashion and you project it into that space, you naturally become weaker. You naturally start detaching. You naturally start to lose the aspect of the connection to your true self. Now you're stuck in based on that aspect of the attachment. So that means you're looking at your bank account and you're saying that my bank account, what I'm able to do. So now when when you're having conversations, when you're having builds and you're in those relationships, you're at that job, you spreading that idea, you sitting there doing damn debates. I'm not one to debate. It's the emotional impulse. The emotional impulse is the intellectual aspect. The emotional impulse feeds and is fed in that cycle by the intellectual aspect. That means you feel good by what you think that you know. And the more that you know it now, in order for everything to fit, now this is where we saw coming up in the conscious community, motherfuckers is arguing back and forth, trying to argue their points. And now when we're seeing this, I'm the individual using this as that example. If I see two niggas battling on the street, arguing some points, and they got their posters up and shit on the wall, and they're like, yeah, because I saw this, and this means this, and this means this. My mindset, while they arguing, not paying attention, they distracted with each other. I'm walking back looking at both of those boards, and I'm sitting there drawing into the center how those shits connect. I'm drawing into the middle point. When you breaking away from the attachment, that aspect, when you sitting there, you dependent on shit. You're dependent on everything outside of you. So the more that you are dependent on the things outside of you, the more that you are attached to the things outside of you, the more that you need, the less accountability that you take in for yourself. The less you're able to take in that accountability, the less you're able to groom your awareness, the less that you're able to apologize. You ever heard somebody that moving on an emotional impulse, and when they feel bad or when they feel like they did something wrong, they can never apologize? I know. I used to be that guy. My trauma left me so fucked up that I said, fuck apologizing. But until in the aspects of doing that internal work, I had to understand, why have I never learned the aspect of forgiveness and to apologize? That led me right back to wounded masculine aspects of myself. Exactly, the AAA. So I'm sitting back there in that space like, oh shit, that's where that came from. In understanding yourself to become truly free, the reason that most of y'all, the reason that you cannot divorce from the aspects of the attachments that are outside of you is because it will require you to get in tune with your inner child. It will require you to get in tune with your inner child. Your inner child is the one that needs to divorce from the attachments, the pretty colors. I still remember when I was 1 year old. I remember I was always in a state of attachment. I remember when I was 1 year old. And yes, I remember when I was 1 year old. I also remember my birth. I've told this story before. I remember when I was 1 year old. And I remember when I was 1 year old, I had on my blue Air Force jumpsuit. I was feeling real fly. And I remember my pops was in the backyard. He was like raking up leaves and was burning leaves. Had a big ass pile of leaves just sitting there burning. I remember going into the kitchen, grabbing all of my baby bottles, I grabbed all my bottles, my sippy cups. I'm climbing all my shit and putting it into my wagon. And I remember walking out dead in front of my pops, looked him in the face, and he nodded his head, yeah. And I dumped all of my bottles and all of my shit into the fucking fire. Burn it away. My mom came home. My mom came back from the store. My mom's was like running around the kitchen like, where's all his bottles? Where's all his bottles at? And like my pops is like leaning right there on the partition, like leaning on the thing in between the hallway, the kitchen and the living room. He leaning right there. He said, look at him. I'm sitting on the couch. I didn't pour myself a cup of juice. I think it was I poured myself a cup of grape Kool-Aid, and I'm sitting there and I'm like drinking out of the big boy cup. So even from that stage, a lot of the things that you truly are, the aspects of your true divine self, are locked away. In the reason that you cannot fully go into the aspects of transferring and separating from these aspects is because of that indoctrination process that happened to you in this present cycle of your life. We're not looking. You have to stop going. What we tend to try to do is based on the knowledge aspect or the human thought or the intellectual aspect. The emotional impulse is naturally to go back to the worst shit that happened prior to you in your present state. So now you in your current state, and you always seem to want to go back to, I find it funny how, or I never open up because of this, this, and this. And now you create this damn excuse, and then you give yourself the reason you give yourself the environment to live within it. Every time I open up to a woman, she uses it against me. Every time I feel vulnerable around a man, I feel like they use me. No, 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 no. Remove the emotional impulse of the thought. Really think about, why is this seen to be a pattern inside of your life? Why is that a pattern in your life? What are you not realizing and becoming aware of that aspect in your life? Yes, you're going to go through the tears. Yeah, you're going to cry. Yeah, you're going to be mad. But guess what? Elevation requires separation. It requires true separation. It requires you to be able to see what you were attached to based upon the dependency. And then you sitting there, why does this keep happening to me? And then you will come up with some of the lowest level outlandish thoughts that are still within the realm of your human thought. Now you sitting there stuck. Now you sitting there upset. Now you're waiting for things to be. Now you're unconsciously waiting for the trigger, because you know the trigger's there. You're aware of the trigger. You're aware of the emotion. So you're waiting on the emotional trigger because you set the trigger. You set it up. You set the landmine. And it's like when you're going into a state based on attachment and you're not going into your growing process. Every time that you learn something, I've said this before, every time that you learn something, everything that you learn, the code is two-sided. Just like the DNA helix, there's those two strands, it's two-sided. One side of that strand is the aspect of the building, and the other aspect is the code to destroy. One side is for the building, and the other side is for the destroying. That's why when you step into these situations and it get chaotic, and you're like, oh shit, let me step back. You have one or two choices. This is one of the biggest things that I always say to myself as a mantra. I got one or two choices when that vibration hits that peak. That means when it hits that arc and when it's about to pop off, I got one or two decisions to make. Either I'm going to jump off into that space and embrace and surrender to what I'm about to learn in that space, or I'm gonna climb back down. For a long time for myself, I was always climbing back down. And I always created these reasons to climb back down. I always had a reason to climb back down. It was friends. It was family. In reality, I was going against my own human design. My design as a manifested generator is to be able to skip those steps. But I have to learn how to inform. That was one of my keys. So the steps that I skipped, when I can come back, I'm learning these aspects. Those are what I'm going to be informing my steps. So naturally for myself, for a long period of time, as much as I can say that I was independent, and I was independent based on external narratives. I was independent because I had my own place. I was independent because I had my own car. I was independent because I had my job. I was independent because I can set the tone of who can come in my house and whatever. These false ass filters that I gave myself to stay within that space. Because since I'm independent, the only way that I can remain in that frequency of being independent is by I'm sitting in my house by myself. No one can see that I'm independent. This is when you looking outside of yourself and you feeling that loneliness because the state of detachment is starting to deteriorate. The detachment, that veil of attachment is deteriorating. So now you react to it based on how you got into that space. Where's you moving based on impulse? That emotional impulse, you moving on what you thought shit you knew. And then it gets even worse when you come into the aspect of the conscious community, and then you sitting there going to see your thought process of yourself, and you're like, see, yeah, everybody up here doing the same thing. Exactly. You sitting there worthless shit. Now, I'm not saying this in the aspect of you got to be broke to be in this shit. I'm not saying it into that aspect because I am the manifestation of luxury all fucking day. I live in a luxurious ass fucking aspect. But if you're only doing it based on the external, if your lifestyle is going to be based on the external aspect of the byproduct of the luxury, the byproduct of being, I'm wealthy, yeah, that ain't got shit to do with nothing. There's an old nigga walking around NY right the fuck now that got fucking stones and jewels on himself that he handcrafted for himself, and motherfuckers looking at him like he fucking fly as fuck. They're looking at it for the wrong reason. That's that nigga's talent and craft. When you're doing your work, you're doing it based upon the connection to your purpose of your authentic self. I'm not doing anything that I do. I'm not trying to make motherfuckers be like, yeah, I don't. That's gonna be synonymous with it. Because with that information, with that aspect, if I'm looking at it from an aspect of a bias, this is when you start looking at the aspect. If I look at it like that is one of the best aspects to break that down. Johnny Mack had just said, it's like every time I go to the store, it doesn't require 4 wheels, but I have a car. That's exactly what it is. I got the fucking smoke shop right across the street from me where I get all my stuff to put my herbs in. The dealer ain't got what I got, but that's a whole nother story. The herbs for my herbs, it's like someone can look at me and literally be like, man, why, man, but you could have drove. And then if you break it down to them, this is when you start breaking shit down. It's like, this is the process of me leaving my house if I was to hop inside of a car. There's a median in the middle of the road. So that means in order for me to go, I have to first go out. I got to make a right. I got to go all the way down to where I can U-turn, turn all the way around, just to turn again, just to get over there. And then I got to pull out, and then I got to do that same process all over again just to get back to my space. Why? So I could turn my music on, so I could turn the music up, so I can look like something, so I can pull up and hop out the car and do the scene from Belly, the opening intro from Belly, and fix my coat and make me look like I'm looking like something. Why? So I can make it like I'm damn, that motherfucker is successful, independent, and all of this shit. Meanwhile, I got 16 cents in my fucking bank account. 16 cents in my bank account. My check getting knocked off by. Why? Why would you put yourself in such a position? It's because that's the behavioral process of you allowing your inner child out. Your inner child is undisciplined. The same aspect when y'all going into any relationship, whether it be the job, be the friendship, be that love interest, be whatever it is, you going into this space based on being seen as what you are for the fear of being seen for what you for seeing that inner aspect. I can see, I see, feel with, and that's another major key. This is another major fucking key I wanted to get into when it came into motherfuckers, when it's coming down now, for motherfuckers that are bringing in information, channeling their intuition and all of these aspects. If you have not done the internal work, when you are channeling these energies and you are getting these conversations brought to you, if you have not done the internal work, if you are still stuck within attachment and within biases, you are only pulling energy from the lowest levels of the astral realm. You ain't even pierced the aspect of the veil. Those counterfeit energies, the demiurge spirits, that's the shit that's giving you the information for yourself. Because true information is not going to make you, true information that is of the true aspects of your higher self is going to make you go, oh. It's going to humble you automatically. It is going to naturally humble you. And you will be hyped, because I get hyped all the time. I get damn downloads. But it will humble you, because you're going to sit there for a moment with the information like, did that shit just happen? Like, for an example, the brown man, the red man, the yellow man, and the white man. The brown man, the red man, the yellow man, and the white man. We all have, I hope everybody, if you haven't studied the creation stories of these four counterparts of energy, these four aspects of energy are the human design. They're each one aspect of the human design. The red man, the brown man is the generator. Remember, y'all, I don't know if anyone, if you have not seen that Phil Valentine did a lecture and he was breaking down the aspects. Yes. When you heal your inner child, that it's like, ooh. Like earlier this week, Thursday, or was it Wednesday? Wednesday. It was either between Tuesday and Wednesday. Between Tuesday and Wednesday. I felt this after I did meditate and elevate, and I was sitting here going through some emails, doing readings and all my good stuff. And I just felt this extreme high. Like I felt like my body was in this extreme, like, oh my God. I just felt this euphoria hit me. And then I noticed, I'm just observing myself. I was like, I went to the gym Monday. I went to the gym I go to the gym Monday through Thursday. And I put each quadrant of my body in a coffin before I leave. Monday is arms, chest, shoulders. Tuesdays is back, lower back, a little bit more shoulder work. Wednesday is core. Thursday is legs. For the last 3 weeks, and I kill myself in the gym. I beat myself the fuck down. I see how much I can fucking take. My recovery time is like nothing. By the time I walk out of the gym and it's cold, by the time I walk out of the gym, go do whatever I need to do before I come back to the crib, I feel like nothing. I feel like I'm also noticing that in the aspect when I'm taking in information. But let me get back to this red man, the yellow man, the brown man, the yellow man, the brown man, the yellow man, the red man. No, the brown man, the red man, the yellow man, the white man. These four aspects. Generator. Exactly. Generator. No. Manifester is the brown man. The generator is the red man. The projector is the yellow man, and the reflective is the white man, or the white, the Tamahu, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I'm gonna give you the aspect and break down why. Everything that you seem to hate and you got to put on something, you put on the most reflective surface so you can sit there and stay within that space. You go to the most reflective surface, which by definition, you put onto the white man. When you think about projecting based on your intelligence, and you project your intelligence, man, yeah, them Asians is smart. This is just something that this is understanding those programs that are in your mind. Yellow man, he's smart. You projecting your aspects of smart. They make video games and iPhones and all of this shit. When you were taught the generating process of taking things in, when you think about the generating process, hold on, okay, yeah. The yellow man, well, we understand like the white man, the brown man is the generator. The red man, no, brown man's the manifester. The red man's the generator. The yellow man is the original archetype for the projector, and the white man is the aspect or the original projection for the reflective. That doesn't give them the defining of each one of their aspects. It can those things can be switched based upon what you're using it into. But this is a good key way that I've learned to actually start going through things based upon the frequency of these, seeing the aspects of seeing the sounds and seeing the colors and seeing sounds and hearing colors. What leads through into the aspect when you get into that dream realm, you start navigating through the astral belt for yourself. You're looking for things based on these aspects of these chords or that universal tune, and you putting together your own cadence. Just putting that into that. We don't get deep into that, but I want to start what I was going into. So when you're taking it to this aspect, when you're looking at things and you're trying to put yourself into this space of yourself, and you're starting to take accountability for yourself, and you're starting to take that awareness for yourself, then you're starting to take that responsibility and how you're applying these things to yourself. This is how you're going to start the apology process. When we think about submitting, surrendering, apologizing, forgiving, we have this narrative based on it coming on the aspects of weakness, which it is fucking true. It's the negative aspect because it's the weaker aspect to weaken in order for you to actually go within. When we use it in a manipulative sense, this is why someone can sit there and tell you, this is like the same way that somebody can sit there and say, and motherfuckers are battle it, and motherfuckers say that shit. Someone can say some outlandish shit to you, and then they say, God bless. And now you feel like you can't say nothing because they said, God bless. It's the same aspect as a motherfucker can sit here and say something to you that's based on a fear-based narrative, and they put combat behind it, they put more behind it, they put some other title behind it, or some defining external space behind it to make you believe it, to make you say, okay, that must be right, that must be true, because they fit the image of what I am seeing. They fit a symbol of something that looks original, because you still stuck on the tone, you still stuck on the generating aspect, the generator, the brown man giving you some good shit. So you'll wait for them to generate something to bring, you'll wait for them to manifest and bring something to you in that space. Or you're going to wait for somebody, yeah, man, because, and then you put yourself into that space. This is how people get dumbed down in these, becoming a part of something, being pro something or anti something. So you're stuck within two pendulums. So now everything on the other side has to be the natural reflective. But from what I've really fucking noticed, in they're only projecting you. So how real is your shit anyway? They're up as you're upgrading, as you naturally are upgrading yourself, as you're naturally upgrading your software. You're naturally upgrading your software. You're doing your internal work. What do you think is going to happen with the older aspects of you? They're not going to go away. They're going to dissipate because that's been the natural flow of motion based on connection. Remember how I just put them 4 aspects together? That's the natural aspect of the connection. As you're going up, as you're shifting, as you're ascending into the higher aspects of yourself, of course, the older aspects of you are supposed to fall away. We get stuck in the emotional impulse field of intellectual, and we like to say, man, that's our shit. So you stuck in possession. So now so someone can rather sit here and tell me, so you rather sit here and tell me to my face, someone can say to my face that if somebody else takes on characteristics of my old self and I'm triggered by it, that means I'm triggered by it. So now my first response on emotional, based on the intellectual of that neural pattern in my memory, is to buck against whatever that is. White people always taking our shit. They're your fucking kids. You don't say the same shit about the Asian dudes that are dreading up their hair or locking their hair up or putting waves and all that shit. But they doing the exact same thing. They're your fucking kids. They're creations that you created to observe. One of the biggest things that you got to admit to yourself, one of the first things that you admit to yourself, and you really got to be real with yourself, is like, if I'm the creator of all things, that means I created everything that's within this space. Therefore, I must take responsibility and accountability for what I created by understanding what the fuck I created. You created that. So scale it into your personal life. Where you at right now? Square one, zero. Ground zero for yourself right now. Put it into that space where you at right now. And what you did. Think about the aspects of what you created in your space based upon the trauma. And it's a scary thing because when you're so used that you have a foundation based upon trauma, you have a foundation based upon trauma, you created everything in your existence based upon trauma. So now that you actually have to grow up, now that you actually got to take your inner child out of that box and take your inner child out of timeout and sit there in front of your inner child in that mirror and sit in front of me and I'm about to bring that shit out of your ass during a fucking session. Now you don't want to, you're always going to try to find a loophole or a drop site or a space for you to hide within yourself so you don't have to take full accountability for your action. Stand by what the fuck you said. Stand by what the fuck you said. You saying it out loud because you're acknowledging the pattern. Your inner child is speaking it out loud because it needs that pattern to be acknowledged. When you're around individuals that are still within the same paradigm as yourself in that space, it sounded good because they'd be like, girl, it's not you. Yo, dude, you know how these hoes ain't loyal. Yeah, girl, it ain't you. Nah, man, it ain't you. It's them, man. They missing out. No, nigga, it's you. No, sis, it's you. It's you. I'm going to tell you that it's you. And I'm not telling you I'm not telling you to dishearten your heart or your soul. I'm telling you in the aspects, and then we're going to break it down into the spaces of asking yourself these true ass fucking questions. Why does every time you get to a certain point, this happens? Why does this come up at that certain point? It's because you have not yet understood or defeated or went through this aspect of that reflection. That's why you keep coming to that certain point. That's why every time you get to that certain point in your job, now you're sitting there saying, man, I need a new job. But it's so over, that framework is so overcoded. You're thinking about it. It looks like this. My job ain't making me no more money. I remember working in restaurants, and I remember we called them motherfuckers jumpers. Because every time a new restaurant would open, they go jump to the new restaurant and go ride the wave of the energy of that money coming in that space. Yes, look at it with that different angle of light. So every time a new restaurant would open, they all go run to that restaurant. They all go run to that restaurant and ride that wave, because if anybody's ever worked in restaurants, for the first 6 months of every restaurant, every opening of, that's usually almost, any restaurant in this case, there is a cycle before, in that 6 months, you have a certain amount of time before you actually have to start making a profit. So take that synonymous in the aspects of your life when you're doing the beginning of your work. Some people, some motherfuckers that are within that conscious realm of their aspect, they got stuck within that space. They got stuck in that nice little 6 months, and they rode that wave in that 6 months. But at that 6 month, it's time to actually start doing some fucking work. But if I wasn't genuine with myself when I came into this space, when it comes time for me to really, when this wall hit, I got to start actually making my own profit. I got to actually start charging my own energy. I don't know how to do it. So now I'm stuck in the fear-based narrative of being within this space, because this space is now defined by fear, or that rhythm of fear. Remember the impulse? You did it based on emotion. So you came into that space based on emotion. That's what I need right now. That's what I need. That's what I want. That's what, okay, cool. How are you going to sustain it? There's a difference. There's a big ass difference when it comes to the aspects of, when I say that I went through an entire aspect of the emotional maturity training of myself was one of the deepest aspects of me to release a lot of aspects of fear. And remember, we're outside of good and bad. Fear can be that positive or that negative, because something can be very, very motherfucking, it can be very fucking good. It can be very, not good. It can be very beneficial to you, but it can be very fucking negative. And something can be super fucking positive, but it can serve you no fucking purpose. When you're moving in this emotional algorithm, you always trying to look, you're naturally looking for the negative or waiting for the negative to come into that space. You naturally looking for the negative, naturally. So on the other end, you ain't never really paying attention to how to build in the positive. So this goes into the aspects of that sacrifice. What are you willing? How to come with? What are you willing? What are you really willing to sacrifice to do what you need to do? To break away from attachment, because that's what you're sacrificing. You're sacrificing your independence. You're sacrificing, unconsciously, you sacrificing independence to become self-sufficient. So in plain fucking sight, for about the last 3 years of the last job that I carried for the last 3 fucking years, I would literally soaked up everything that I could learn in every space that I was at. Because that's going to be your key. I soaked up every bit of information that I could learn within that space. Why? And the only way that I can actually start absorbing the information is that I had to suspend the aspect of the attachment of the original reason that I went into that. I had to suspend that aspect of why I was in that space. Because the byproduct would naturally happen if I'm doing my work anyway. Everything that you're doing, if it's based on a process of you putting in your work, if you really doing your work, that means when you're doing your work, you're actually understanding and aware of your patterns. You become aware of the pattern in an internal state. Like I can sit here and say, like for most people right now, when they're talking about restaurants, when they're talking about their businesses are going under and all of these aspects, you didn't understand the pattern, because there was already a pattern already underlined within that business model anyway. For restaurants, most restaurants, when it's back to school, it's a slow time. They don't pick back up until kids are out of school and kids are back from college. Then they'll have that nice little run through the spring. Then they slow down during the summer. Then they might have, depending on where it is, they may have some business during the summer. Some have business during the winter. You have to understand the aspects of the pattern within that space. You would be a blundering fool To really sit there with yourself and be like, yeah, when I went there, man, I was making all this money. I was making all that money when I first went in there. That's nice. You were making all that money when you first went into that space. That's great. But what you didn't learn was the pattern. You didn't learn the pattern. So since you didn't acknowledge the pattern, because you don't understand the pattern of yourself. See, you went in there based on the fear, on a narrative, and this is where most people start fucking up, because you going in based on this one narrative, so you become vulnerable to that one aspect of that narrative. So anything that looks, you're not looking at things for what they actually are. You're not accepting the aspect that you're going to outgrow certain algorithms as you fucking evolve. You got stuck within this. You got stuck within this nice little cookie cutter narrative of time. By this age, I'm supposed to be doing this, and by this time, I'm supposed to be doing this. But while you're sitting there and you're like, by the age, I'm not supposed to be fully established until I'm 35. I ain't got to worry about none of that shit. There's a motherfucking 20-year-old right the fuck now that got his own fucking clothing companies and his business and his evolution to himself. In Derek Grace, in his classes, in most of his classes, there are 13-year-old and 12-year-old boys, 12 and 13-year-old kids in the classes listening to that information. And I've been in some of these classes. I'm like, that nigga 13, that nigga 12. And he's sitting here speaking. We're listening to him speak during the fucking class. And he just in there learning like us. So this takes you out of the aspect of the filter. I gotta wait till I'm a certain age to do this. I gotta wait till I'm at the fuck. You'll never be fucking free. You'll never be free because you're stuck based on the old foundation. I'm 35, but I'm 27 forever because I stopped the aging process. 27 forever. 27 for as long as I'm 27 for the rest of my time down here. But I'm 35. But I'm 27 to as long as I'm down here. Because I've surrendered to my soul, and my soul is naturally recreating myself, and I'm disciplining myself in that space to be like, you know what? I gotta let go of this. I gotta let go of this. And this goes into these deeper aspects of when you sitting there, it's like motherfuckers sitting here will really argue back and forth about being vegan, being plant-based. Yes. Man prefers to perish rather than change the ways. Oh my God. Yes. Yes. That's big facts. That's big facts. Big fucking facts. That's synchronicity right there. Because I literally broke that. Because I really broke that right there. What Johnny just said, I said something. I put something similar to that in this week's podcast, actually. That's the synchronicity when you're inside of that space. When you're inside of your space, as you being the creator, and you're creating the aspects of yourself. When you are constantly creating the aspects of yourself, this is when you learn the boundaries. This is when you learn to open yourself up. Let me go back and talk about the aspect of being plant-based. Plant-based to me is the discipline for me. Plant-based for me is the discipline for me because it helps me open up and learn certain aspects. But I'm not doing it based on a level of validation. So like, just like, for example, for the day when I went out to go grab candles and grab stuff for my altars, my cousin came through, and my cousin loved 4 cheese hot pockets. I'm in the middle of a Hispanic grocery store, and this nigga leads me to the freezer section to get him 2 4 cheese hot pockets. And we sat here and we ate 4 cheese hot pockets. One sitting over there. One, I took one, chopped that shit up, put it up there on the fucking, put it out there. My crow, Rico, Fred, my crows came through, picked up the pieces and took it into the ethers. I ate the other half. I'm not going to sit here and deny what is needed in a certain space for me to sit here and be like, nah, I can't do that. I'm not going to restrict myself because I'm not going to look at it based on an emotional impulse. Gratitude. When you in that space, I'm not going to sit there. But I know I have to learn. I know I'm learning that discipline first. When you're in the aspect of true indulging, it's in the aspect of raising your genius and building in your intelligence. Your genius in your intelligence. Your genius is the your genius is the microchip on the motherboard where your inner child dwells. That is what your genius. Your genius simply means the wanting to know, the wanting to understand. So when I indulge, that is my intelligence. See, when you get stuck within the intellectual aspect, a lot of people get stuck in the intellectual aspect, and you'll sit there and you'll read 976 books. And you may feel good about them 976 books that you just read. You might feel great. But now you need the emotional impulse or the attachment of somebody sitting there hitting with you and sitting there talking to you in order for you to share or regurgitate what you've just learned. You haven't applied any of it to yourself. There's information that I've taken in. There's information that from earlier study for myself when I was when I was reading Gnostic texts, when I was reading the Gnostic text, when I was reading the Book of Thomas, the Book of Judas. If y'all have not read the Book of Judas, go read the Book of Judas. That is a great book. That's a great book to expound yourself upon. Oh yeah. While we're at it, while we're in this space right now, while it's on my mind, because y'all know, like, spirit come through, I forget shit. January 31st, I will be launching the God Occult Alchemist Secret Society Book Club. Yes, I will be putting out the information throughout the month for the Secret Society, the God Occult Alchemist Secret Society Book Club. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be fucking phenomenal because we're gonna take aspects like the Book of Judas. I actually listened to there's actually a couple of good joints on YouTube that led me to the aspects of wanting to really go expound upon the book, because there's things that are being said within the aspect of that book that align with the aspects of the Book of Thomas, that align with the aspects of that go straight into the aspects of the Book of Thomas. So I'm picking it up. The reason I picked it up and I was like listening to it and it came in that new stream of information is because I already did something else. I already had the other information. When you're doing your internal work, when you're working on your genius, that's when it's going to come to you naturally. But you got to be humble to the process and free of attachment. You have to be free of the aspects of attachment. That's major fucking key in you proclaiming that you're free, proclaiming that what you are, standing in the aspects of your truth. You're not doing it based on that emotional impulse that if I say that I'm a god, I say that I'm a goddess, I say like this, that's the same way as somebody saying that I'm a mom, I'm a dad, I'm a sister, I'm a brother, I'm a used car salesman. That same shit. When you're going and you have not done that internal work, the same way that you can call yourself a god or a goddess or a king or a queen or an alchemist or an occultist is the same way that most motherfuckers are taking the information by saying, I'm a used car salesman, I'm a garbage man, I'm a postal worker, I'm this right here. So now you sitting in the space, and just because you've tacked on this aspect to your fucking name, now you add it to your name. Now you feel good when you go into the space because you got a conversation starter. You got some shit that's going to cause a little bit of turmoil. Yeah, man, they don't be liking me, man, when I walk in, man, because they don't understand that I'm in my real name, my original name, the original man. Think about how dumb your ass sound. Because now you naturally put the target on your fucking back. You put the target there. And you create, so who's the enemy? You you gave yourself the target. Bobby Hemmings said that shit best. Why the fuck you want to be anything? When my name came, when Papa Lucifer came to me, And all the other aspects of the other names that I use to go into other spaces, that's me. That is my deified self in the space right now in this flesh. That nigga needed an environment. See, that becomes a key. When you stuck on attachment, you ain't willing to create a new environment. So you trying to take that old shit into that old environment. You trying to take everything you read on numerology and you read some stuff on some astro facts about yourself, and now you want to go take that into your old world. Oh, that's why I'm this way. See, I'm this way because my sign said this, so I'm this way. You're only proving your attachment. So anything that triggers that in that space it's not forcing you to stay there. It's forcing you to become uncomfortable by saying that over and over again. That's why when you getting into these situations, when you go into your job and you saying, I don't need this fucking job, and then you want to scale yourself back down, or you go into a space and you want to keep scaling yourself back down, you the one scaling yourself back down. Y'all niggas making me feel like no, it's you. The first aspect is going to be you. My favorite line, one of my most favorite lines is get over yourself. Get over yourself and get into yourself. Everything that is to be experienced does not have to be observed by everything that you experience. Does not have to you be sitting there and put yourself into a space of making everybody observe what the fuck you went your experiences. And everything that you observe, you don't have to force other motherfuckers to experience what you observe. It's the same thought process. You sitting there going like, they hurt. Like it just, you outgrow these paradigms. You're outgrowing these aspects. You're supposed to outgrow these aspects. You're not supposed to be sitting here at 60 and 50 and 72 and however many years old, still talking about that the white man ain't this. You look sad, your face all sunk in, you mad all the time. What you mad at? There's nothing to be fucking mad at. That being mad at the world mentality, that shit ain't gonna fucking work no more. That having a stance based on what you feel that you know in your mind, but you have not expounded to what you understand with your heart. You can tell when you do not understand something with your true aspects of your heart because you're always going in the emotional impulse of your fucking mind. You jumping and throwing everything else out. So now when you getting challenged, because in this space right now, the way that this shit is now being quantified, the shadow is now present. It's no longer invisible. All of your shadows, everything that you have not worked on is now ever so present. So the weight that you're feeling are those aspects. The shit that's talking to you when you think that you're doing a channel and you think that you're getting some new information, it's your fucking shadow distorting all the information. That's what it's supposed to do. It's thriving. The thought forms about it are thriving within that space. It needs to live. You created it. It needs to live. Because you ain't surrendered to the aspects of the death. You ain't submitted to the true attributes of the fucking true death for yourself. You sitting there like, nah, man, I can't do this. It doesn't matter what you grab in the reality of that shit. When you're becoming self-sufficient, it's all about the aspects of building. So everybody that's sitting there waiting for the nice little stimulus check that you gonna get and whatever, shit don't fucking matter how you investing it. How are you learning from it? How are you investing? How are you investing in the learning aspects and applying it to your learning? It don't matter what relationship that you get in, friend, family, job, whatever it is. Your first mentality should be going into that space of, I'm submitting myself to the attributes of this ideal space to learn everything from this space. That's why I'm here. I'm here to learn the shit in this external environment. This is the funniest aspect of the process. I rarely do it, but I still do it. I was doing it heavy when I was in my nutritionist and aspects of personal training. And I remember like every time somebody would ask me, "Oh, you're vegan," I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm vegan." How do you do it? And I go through the steps. I could clearly go through the steps and I can build within the steps. I was like, in my house, I was vegan. Outside of my house, I was vegetarian. I didn't restrict myself. The key to you learning anything is not restricting yourself. In my house, I'm vegan. That means there's nothing in my house at that point in time, in this point in time, there's nothing in my crib that's not plant-based or that's not plant-based in a vegan nature. Now, when I go out into the realm, I'm still fucking vegetarian. I'm not suppressing the external. I'm recrafting my core. So as I'm going out into the space, slowly but surely, yeah. Ooh, I like that. Yes. Can you ingest that? Ooh, that is beautiful. Can you enjoy moonwalking without everybody clapping? That's like the scene in Paid in Full. Like if I leave the game A, they still gonna love me A. I just serve hat. We can. I hope everybody's seen Paid in Full. But take to that aspect, I would break that down to them in that space, and I'd be like, all right, cool, yeah. Well, I'm vegan inside of my house. That means there's nothing animal products done in my house. Outside of my house, I'm vegetarian. As I go outside in my space and I get more and more comfortable into my space, if I'm going to my job, I'll bring food from my house. If I don't have time and I'm out and about and I don't have time and I do have a hunger, then I'm going to go somewhere where I'm consciously, now my subconscious is now being groomed to be vegetarian, but my new ego is only going to be searching for the aspects of being vegetarian within that space. I'm removing the filter of saying that I'm going out here trying to validate that I'm vegan. Y'all should have it. That means I'm not going into spaces being like, y'all should have a more vegan menu. You know, some motherfuckers don't eat meat. Da 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 da. This is when you start seeing motherfuckers you arguing over bullshit. Most people don't eat that. You know how bad that is for you? Nigga, let them do what they do. It's just like motherfuckers right now that we're talking about the aspects of fucking, it's not New Year's. It's not New Year's. New Year's ain't until early spring. Okay, you know that. I know that. To the motherfuckers that do not know that, they're going to be releasing an amount of energy into that space. What are you doing in that space to acquire that energy? When the ball dropped, when the ball dropped, before the ball dropped, I had my ritual set up on my fucking altar, and I did a release. I took some rituals and put them together for a spell, and I did a release. I did a releasing and a releasing and return ritual to me. And within the aspect of the spell that I spoke, I was like, I'm releasing and surrendering to this process of me going forward. I'm just paraphrasing it now. I call back all of my energy released from all the conduits that I entrapped them in throughout my cycle. That means the way that I put my energy into things, no matter how it was put into, how it was created, I was calling my energy to be released from that conduit and my energy to come back to me. That's that filtration system. Because when most motherfuckers calling their energy back to them, then they got exes calling them, they got that old job calling them, they got people calling them from all this other shit. Is because you just called your energy back to you, but you did not define how you needed your energy to come back to you. You ain't defining it. I define how I want my energy to come back to me. I want my energy to be broken out of this restraint, this right here, whether it was money that I spent on The money that I spent on building everything, getting all my stuff, microphones, everything that I spent all my money on in my company shit, the energy that I use within that space, I asked for it to be redefined and returned back to me. Lay back down, that shit happened instantaneously. It was an instantaneous feeling. Put some blood in there, spice my shit up, drop some blood in there. Yes. I just finished the entire 20-day fast. I finished an entire 20. I just did a 20-day fast. Yes, that's like when we go into this space, we'll sit here and we'll make ourselves feel bad and shit because you don't understand, like, what, oh, nigga, there's a reason for this. What can I use it? How I'm not gonna, like, when most people, when we're stuck in this aspect of this attachment, when we think about fasting, when we think about our fast, when we think about disciplining ourselves, when we think about our growing, we automatically think about it's based on suppression. We think it's based on suppression. But when in the key factoid of it is, when it's coming to the surface, it's showing you the dependency. So if you got addictions and vices, these are the first things that are going to come up based on that withdrawal of what you were attached to it by. The reason that it's triggered is because your vice was a trigger that you became comfortable with. But now that that vice, that withdrawal, that shit's coming to the fucking surface, now it's sitting there hitting you with, like, what was this trigger originally installed for? What was this original program for? You see, you get so stuck in your fucking head that you don't even understand that you created that fucking trigger or that program to sustain for something. You created that trigger or that program to sustain yourself within something, to keep something bottled down, to keep something masked away. And now that you're having to face that, that's when you get scared. That's when the nervousness comes up. That's when the emotional impulse comes up. That's when the destruction comes. That's when these aspects start coming to the fucking surface. Because it's time for you to do the work. There's no more running away from the fucking work. Especially if you, and this is going to people that have spent a month's amount of time gathering all this information, and now you're wondering why all of the knowledge that you acquired, yes, you have had success with the knowledge that you have acquired. The spells, the magic, the work that you've been doing, yes, you've had success. But the reason that you've had success with it is because it was feeding off of the old narrative of the old shadow. So now that it's time for you to address the shadow, for you to advance, because you are being pushed out of your comfort zone, those are going to be the first things that are going to touch to that fucking surface. And now you sitting there like, nah, I don't want to do it. There was a lot of shit that I had to embrace in my beginnings. I remember one of the biggest things for me was like, yo, I was one of the motherfuckers that was sitting there like, yo, I got some new information and I'm ready to go spit it. Shit tested my confidence every fucking time. Shit gave ego death a whole fucking nother name. Humble my ass every fucking time. But now I don't fear shit. Fuck is fear for? What the fuck I need to be angry for? What I need to be angry for? What do I need to fear anything for? Why? Why? If it's an illusion, what am I scared of? Most motherfuckers still got that Freddy Krueger syndrome. Now that you've woken up, you scared to go back to sleep, but you don't understand that when you sleep, you awake, and when you awake, you sleep. You ain't learned the aspect of building that aspect of that bridge to your authenticity. I'm glad that I went through a lot of phases. One of the most humbling factors of the phases that I went through was the aspect of not having the money for some of the things that I thought that I was going to need. Because if I had the aspects of the money back in that space and time, I'd probably be sitting here in a fucking dashiki for no fucking reason. I'd probably be sitting here talking about fucking the surface level of shit. So I can go back and I can forgive myself and thank myself for the shit that I've been through. That's going to be your key. All the shit that you've been through. All the shit that you've been through, everything that's happened to you. Can you go back? It's easy to forgive you. It's easy to forgive yourself in the contrast to the aspect of thanking it. Once you get into the aspect of, okay, cool, I can forgive myself for what this happened. I can forgive myself for this. I forgive myself for that. I forgive myself for that. Too much, when you get too deep into the aspects of the forgiveness, remember there's the aspect of balance. When you get into that space of that forgiveness aspect, then you're going to start seeing forgiveness becomes that self-loathing aspect. So in order to balance it, you got to start being able to thank yourself for the same thing that you just went through. That's that key. I'm thankful for everything that I've been through. But first I had to forgive myself for going through it based on what I did not understand. So now my inner child fully can thank me for what I understand now, because it can be applied and it has a free space to roam. Rather than you going into this is you coming into the aspects of your freedom. This is the LLC mentality. The LLC mentality is ensured by the AAA. The AAAs is that accountability, the acceptance, the accountability, and the apology. So everything that you're doing in your space based on the LLC mentality is naturally insured by your AAA. So as I'm taking ownership of myself, that means I have the reassurance to myself that I now can take accountability. I can now take the acceptance, and I now the acceptance, the accountability, and I now can apologize to myself, not in the aspect of self-loathing, but into an aspect of, okay, cool, maybe I shouldn't have did that. And the more that you start doing that, the more you start going, because now you're breaking away from the aspect of attachment, and now you're coming into the connection. And now that you're in that aspect of your connection, now you're sitting there. That's when this is when you're ultimately humble. You're humble to yourself. You're not apologizing for your truth. You being sovereign and being free, once you set the tone of you're free, you're sovereign, this is my definition of my freedom, this is the definition of me being in a healthy space of being free, a healthy space of being my self-awareness. It's up to them it's up to them to find the reasons and do the research to try to denounce your freedom. This is where a lot of us get stuck in. This is what a lot of motherfuckers get stuck up in, because you're using an external factor to say why you free. Let me go get this paperwork real quick so I can say that I'm free. Let me go get this badge. Let me go get this name tag. Let me go get this card to say that I'm free. Meanwhile, you still ain't left the country. You ain't left the country, but you're free. Your definition of free and mine are two different definitions. That's fine. You have to become comfortable with other aspects of individuals being inside of their space. And some people pay yourself your fucking reparations. Stop giving give yourself your fucking reparations. What the fuck? Because as long as you're waiting for something outside of you to give you something, you're always going to be waiting, because it's only a reflection of you. You got to give it to yourself first. Because when you give it to yourself, it doesn't have anything over you anymore. That's a major factor for yourself. A lot of us go into these spaces. A lot of us go into these spaces of our thoughts, and we go into these situations based on a narrative that I can use what I've always used and act how I've always acted to go within that space and get what I fucking want. And now you're finding out, for a lot of people, the motherfuckers are finding out that immaturity shit, that emotional immaturity, yelling and screaming and threats and all of this shit, you allowing your inner child to project, that shit don't work. The agenda in your mindset to move forward in that thought process, you realizing why it doesn't connect. Because it doesn't work. It's never worked. It worked under a veil of an old foundation. That foundation been fucking destroyed. That foundation been over with. That's not a part of your design. You keep trying to form this mold over a frame that is not set for. That's why I keep falling apart. You keep trying to put this mold over a frame that it ain't set for. So now you don't understand the real purpose for the real. Now you're not looking at the real reason for why things are coming into your life or coming into that cycle for you to learn from it. You're trying to hold it into that space. They purposely started, yeah. Yes. Giving you the positive and the negative so they can give you that charge. That's the exact aspect of that manipulation to that space. Meanwhile, if you know that you know, like, as soon as they said that, you're like, okay, cool. Exactly. Meanwhile, you waiting for that to happen, you ain't even in waiting for that to happen. Your eyes are on that, so your eyes ain't on the work that you need to do to bring that into your alignment. You can have LLC mentality. Like, this year is going to be very deep in the aspects of that LLC mentality. I don't want to, everything that I build upon in the LLC mentality for myself in the physical representation of the environment is everything from every purchase that I will be making this year, as an example, will be made through my LLCs. Every build that I'm doing will be built through my LLCs. Everything that I will purchase will be purchased through the aspect of an LLC. Everything. That's one of my goals on my vision board for this year. Every LLC that every time that it comes time to, like, I'm about to make another major move, there'll be an LLC attached to it. There will be a company account attached to it. Because this is the reality of the aspects when even you coming into the money anyway. Either you're going to do one or two things based on the emotional impulse. You either going to sit there and be like, you know what? I'm going to go buy this over here to make myself feel good. Or guess what? There has to be a negative to every positive. I'm going to go buy this to go feel good. So guess what's going to happen on the other end? The good old IRS is going to take off the other end to make you feel bad, keeping you in that balance. Meanwhile, with the LLC mentality, I'm going to buy that through my company, my entity. I'm going to pull that to me through my entity. So when it comes to the government or what the government and all that shit trying to pull stuff from me, I got that through my entity for my business. You only can give me something. Damn, that's a tax credit. Damn, that's a tax credit. Tax credit, tax credit, tax credit, tax credit, tax credit, tax credit. My goal is not to owe anything to anybody but myself. I owe myself nothing because I am nothing. That's how you start doing. This is how you start using your word, not using your magic to do basic. If you want to do We're done with this basic ass magic shit where it's going into the aspects of you want to go on the dream vacation, so you want to go do your money spell to go make a couple of $100,000 so you can go to Cancun or you can go to Miami to go get ass shots. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. Own your shit and realize that's what you stuck in. Meanwhile, yes, and that's even a bigger factor. I was having a conversation with my one of my partners, and we were having a conversation about the aspects of having your kids come into your business, do the kids into your business plan of hiring your children. And then one of his dudes was somebody had a counter, we had a counterbalance to it. And he was like, but what if your kids don't want to do what you were doing? You looking at the wrong line of it. If you have your children and you employ them to your LLC, everything that they learn through the aspects, the basics that they're going to learn through your company, the basics that they're going to learn through your aspect of business, the first thing that you're going to have to release from is, I want them to carry on the family name. No, they're going to carry on the family name regardless. But you have to think in a linear aspect. Yes, that bigger picture. It's that bigger picture aspect. Because now that they've learned the basics within your space, yes. Because now they're going to be in their space. They're learning the aspects of longevity. Now they have a basis. Instead of you sending your kids out and your kids look fly on the Christmases and the Easters or whatever holiday, they look balling for one time out the fucking 3 to 4 times out the year. Give them the gift of longevity because they're on their own path. This is another big thing based on the attachment process for a lot of people. Yes. Because your kids, friends, everybody's on their path. You're becoming the example of what it is to walk in your path and walk within your truth. You're talking about you're moving from the aspect of the imagery. You're moving out of the aspects of the word and the action, and you're moving into the aspect of your pattern. I move within the pattern of my frequency of myself. So now that you're inside of your space, now when you sit there and you sitting at the fucking table and you're sitting there thinking in a smaller aspect for yourself because you want them to grow up to be just like you unconsciously. You still got some work to do. That's what triggered you. So if you have a kid, have somebody that don't, this is some internal child work, especially if you have children, and they say, I don't want to do that, and it triggers you and it makes you upset, it means you got some inner work you got to do. Let's look at these things outside of the emotional aspect of bias. Take that aspect and really look at it as, why did it originally trigger you? What did it trigger you? What did it trigger? What's the underline of that trigger that got pulled while you were inside of that space? There's things that in the aspect to the unhealed perspective, to where me is the most abnormal shit in the fucking space. But I went through the process like, nigga, I've always been abnormal. I've never been normal. I've never ever been normal. I embraced that aspect of myself at a younger aspect. Yeah, I had to fine tune it through my shadow work and internal work and understanding aspects of myself. But now I'm fully in the space where I'm with myself like, damn, I didn't know I was like that. I didn't know I was like that. Shit. This is when you start looking at those triggers. What is that trigger? What is that trigger underlined attached to in your past? In your past, in that space for yourself. What is it attached to? Sit with yourself and do the fucking work. Elevation requires the separation. You can either say it's all about the aspects of the balance. So you can say yes too much and you can say no too much. Yes. That's one of the major keys. I believe we don't own our kids. So they don't want to do something they don't have to respect their individuality, but I still make sure they are financially secure. That is the exact point. You're cultivating them. The key aspect of working within the aspects of the realm of the child, understanding that our children, your kids is fresh out the realm. They fresh out of there. They fresh back. That's why they're here. They're here to show your ass something. They're here to show you something. But like most aspects and qualities, when you're stuck with an attachment, you try to make a reason for everything to stay attached. When you stuck in attachment, you try to create this tether, emotional impulse for it to stay attached. I remember one of the biggest emotional impulses of my mother and my pops and my karmic aspects of family would try to keep me attached based on this aspect of acceptance. My history, my family history for myself, the whole story of the trauma that I went through in the aspect, but like that when the traumatic aspect of not knowing the true lineage of yourself is a very big aspect for a lot of individuals. So me sitting in my space, I'm like, nigga, I don't know who the fuck I really am. For the age of 13 to about 16, I denounced everything black. I claimed all island aspects of myself and denounced everything that was attached to being in the aspects of being black. And when I did that, lost myself. And that's something that you got to admit to yourself when you lost yourself. Admitting when you lost. I lost myself for about 4 or 5. I lost myself for about 6 years. And since I lost myself, so when I lost myself in that space, when I lost myself, I found out that I was attaching to those external narratives. That's a big, deep part of the aspect of your shadow work. Realizing what you attached to when you lost yourself. Based on the originally getting to the pattern of the indoctrination to yourself. How you your indoctrination. Who put that into yourself and how you lost yourself. I lost myself for about 6-7 years. Goddamn memory white. Didn't know who the fuck I was. But the only thing that I had was the external aspects that I was, okay, cool. I got this cool ass job. I got a good job. I got this, and I got this. But every time that I was in these spaces, I noticed that when it came time for me to do work into myself, I would run away from it. I would dip myself into other things outside of myself to keep myself from going into taking the accountability to me. And then when I did start noticing this pattern, the first aspect was accepting. Remember, the AAA is the accepting. So I had to accept that I had to accept my role in these patterns. That's one layer in itself. Just the acceptance process. So while I'm accepting these aspects and things are filtering in because I'm doing acceptance, now it's the aspects of me now sitting here and now becoming aware. No, actually it's awareness, then acceptance. Now that I'm aware of these aspects, now I got to accept my role in these aspects. This is where a lot of us go when we first come into our consciousness. or coming to our awakened state or coming to the consciousness or that woke phase, you in that space, and now you have the aspect of acceptance before awareness. You see, you go to acceptance before you went to awareness. So since you went to acceptance before awareness and you skip this step, when it comes time to, when you start going out and now you're in your aspect of acceptance and you moving your acceptance and you speaking on the aspect of your acceptance of, yeah, I'm accepting that I'm black and I'm accepting this and I'm accepting that. Now your shadow is still operating. You ain't learned how to manipulate your shadow yet, because you're manipulating your shadows within the aspect of your awareness. So you ain't learned to manipulate your shadow yet. So your shadow's still manipulating the whole illusion. So now you're reading, when you're taking in information based on the intellectual aspect. Remember, the intellectual aspect is the emotional impulse. So now you're stuck on that emotional impulse bullshit. So now you going out there, now you arguing that the white man is this, the white man is that, this nigga ain't this, these niggas ain't shit, based on a cognitive bias. Because that natural psychological program of the intellectual is to feed the cognitive biases. So now you feeding the cognitive bias. The cognitive bias is that thought form. So now you feeding these cognitive biases that you created into your mind. You're feeding the aspect of the halo effect. Black people can't do nothing wrong because we all black. We all came through struggle. The white man is evil, so the white man is under the horn effect, the contrast effect, the affinity effect. No new friends. I don't need nothing new around me. I don't need nothing, man. I'm stuck in my ways. So now you comfortable. So now you created an entire aspect of a world where you living in, and you now in that space. And now that it's time that shit gets challenged, now you sitting there looking at yourself like, nah, I don't like that shit. Nah, I don't like that. All that shit, exactly. All that shit's a fucking distraction. You gave yourself distraction after distraction after distraction after distraction. Why did you give yourself the distraction? So you didn't have to apologize to yourself. So you don't have to take self-awareness to yourself. Now you scale back, because every situation naturally is going to have a triggering or a self-sabotaging feature. That's what's naturally within this space. When you read the aspects of the Gnostic text, and it teaches us and it tells you that this is an inherently flawed space, that means it's naturally set to self-destruct at a certain point in time so it can reset itself. But you living in the aspects of the reset. You looking for the reset. Think of how long it goes when you based on attachment and you stuck on the reset. Because now every time you go into a space that you stuck on the reset factor, you never, since you think that, it'll blow over, it'll reset itself, you never learn to apologize. You never learn forgive. You never learn the aspects of true forgiveness. So that's why some motherfuckers right now in the motherfucker, you still have not forgiven your mother for the things that they did, because you only want to see your mother as the positive aspect. You only see your mother as the, and when I'm talking about the positive aspects, remember, we're talking about the aspects that serve you. So your mother can be dead dumb to the fucking world, but it's positive because it works in your favor. Because when you fuck up, you got a place to go back to, and you can guilt her based on that. But then when you going good, you sit there and be like, I don't need my mom. My mom ain't shit. In the same sentence, you say your mom ain't shit. But then somewhere deep down inside you, if somebody went upside your motherfucking head, you gonna feel some type of way. Not talking about you reacted, but you'll feel some type of fucking way. And you'll see that reflection in everything going on around you. Somebody says something about an aspect of a father, your father wasn't in your fucking life. But since you're longing for that aspect, longing for that love or that knowledge or that providing your protection from a father figure, you have that deep-rooted fucking hate, which is the negative. But since you have a longing for it and you're searching for it, you're gonna go out into the aspects of the father figure in your life. And then the mental breakdown of that is like, if you can't find Fuck niggas, I'm going to bitches. Just a thought on that. I'm going to bitches. So now you're acting like everything's good with you, and so you go into spaces acting like with a projection, you put a projection onto something. You now layer onto this what you're in your belief of, so you can control it, so you can manipulate it, so you can use it. And we're talking about positive and negative. So the same in the same aspect and equivalence, that aspect of this individual going upside your fucking head, in your mind, you've synthesized the reason for accepting that. In your mind, you accepted that reason for that shit happening. Also, you can stay locked within your space. See, that's why I don't do this, because I don't trust people. So you have a natural distrust. You have a problem with trust. You have a problem with actually taking the accountability. You have a problem with forgiveness. You have a problem with looking at things differently because you stuck within the old biases. That serves you a purpose, because now you ain't got to go too far. You ain't gonna go too far away from the. You ain't gonna go too far away from the fucking steps, because you created an entire environment around you that serves the purpose of why you never leave the steps. So now you stuck in this reflective ass model, and you wait for the most basic of shit to happen for you in your life. See, I knew that he cared. I knew that she cared, man. We have arguments, but man, that's natural, man. Like, we supposed to argue and fight, man. Relationships ain't perfect. You keep using these external filters to define your relationship. Yeah, we supposed to fight and argue and be raw with all the. No, that's not fucking healthy. Yes, you may have that stint when you're going to get a little bit loud. Yes, you're going to have that stint when you're going to be very fucking passionate. But when it's coming from a healthy ass fucking space, when you sit there, it's not going to, you're not leaving that space unsaid. You're going to say everything. You're going to speak it. You're not worried about being wrong or right. You're not worried about manipulating it. You're not going to ask you're not going to ask loaded questions to be like, well, what about this, this, and this? And what about this, this, and this? You ain't gonna keep giving yourself fucking illusions. These intangible thought processes that you can't have, you have no control over. This false sense of ownership, this false sense of possession, because you stuck on an aspect. This needs to, no. You need to do what you need to do. I break down to all my damn clients. The main thing is commit to your evolution. Your evolution requires separation. Commit to your evolution. Your evolution requires separation. Yeah, it's going to get scary. Yeah, you're going to get scared. Yeah, it's going to hurt. You'll be like, no, I don't want that to happen. But it's a part of that process. The true aspect of trusting that process. Removing the aspects removing them aspects of that fear narrative that you got stuck within your mindset. Now you think other people are scared of everything in the world, so you never listen to what they're actually saying. You never listen to what you have. You ever been inside of a situation where they'll sit there and be like, man, you don't listen. Me being a psychoanalyst and being unified and being in that healed space for myself was like, do you want to hear the words, or do you want to you want me to break down your words? Do you want to break down your actions, or do you want me to break down the pattern? I can do all three. Which one would you like me to do? That's what you're going to be getting into yourself to do. Most of us like to break down the words, and we get stuck on words. That's why most people are stuck on the words or the intellectual aspect. Then others are stuck on the impulse, which is the action. and never quite get to the pattern. The pattern is the rhythm of your heart, the cadence of the rhythm of the cadence of your heart, the melody of your heart, the melody of your inner child. Your child, that's why you were taught to draw inside lines and draw pictures and faces and all of that good stuff. Because that's your inner child expressing the fucking aspects of understanding patterns. That's why you were taught within a rhythmic that's why we listen, that's why we have that natural rhythm. Because there's a natural cadence within our actual act. You scared of the vision. It's okay. It's an okay process. It's okay. But in order for you to become free, to emancipate yourself and set that proclamation, once you said it, you have to understand that you got to build within that. You got to stand by what the fuck you said. You got to accept what the fuck you said. You must accept it. You must accept what happens after what you have said, what you have spoken. Remember, the words are the fucking spells. I love how motherfuckers be like, words are spells, but then still say some of the most outlandish or most human shit in the narrative. Just to sound like something. Just to be like something. But then what are you really learning? What are you really embracing in aspects of you learning? There's no more that excuse. For me, there's less and less and less and less room for the excuse monologue. For me, the more that I've learned about myself, and that's your key, when you take in the information, you allow it to sit, and you allow it to do the work, that you allow it to tear shit down. This is not going to be based on, ooh, I read my angel number, my shit said 1111. What does 1111 mean to you? How have you built upon it? This is how you start, but this is how motherfuckers start putting that aspect into religion. Because now you stuck on the number, now you stuck on trying to see 1111 all the time, but you haven't defined what 1111 means to you. 1111 means something totally different to me. Even though the base or the foundation may be the same, how I built upon it is different. One of the things I do a lot of the times whenever I see my angel numbers is I look at what I'm doing in that space and time. When I'm looking at the number, I'm looking at what I'm doing in that space and time. What purchase did I just make? If I'm at a store, what purchase did I make? What was I doing? Like, what was I really doing in that point in time? And I write that down. So I said at 5:55, for example, I wake up, I'm up at 5 o'clock. I'm actually up at like 4:30. Not all the way here, but I'm up at 4:30. From 5 o'clock to 5:15, I meditate. Yes, exactly. What were you thinking and feeling? And when you're talking about what you're thinking and feeling, it's not on the base level or the surface level. That thought and that feeling, what did it lead to? What did it lead to? But yeah, like for me, from 5 o'clock to 5:15, that's my meditation time. At 5:15, when my alarm go off at 5:15, everything that I was thinking about based on thoughts, like the thought, like let's say I was thinking something, I'm like, where the fuck did that thought come from? That's not mine. I address at 5:15, something came to mind that was not me. Let me explore that further. So now at 5:15, I'm disciplining myself in my thoughts, how to catch the pattern between 5 o'clock and 5:15. What comes up that's not a part of my thought process, and what is it teaching me? So from 5:15 about 5:30, we getting ready for the gym. Getting ready for the gym, you're building your day. How are you building your day? That way, as you're going through your day and you're understanding the patterns, that main pattern being, so you're using the angel numbers as your marker in your journaling of your feeling. What were you feeling at 11:11? What were you feeling at 11:11? Because you might have been feeling something totally fucking horrible to yourself at 11:11, and it might have not been good. So write down what you felt at 11:11. Look at what 1111 means. This is you researching yourself. This is you learning yourself. Everything that you pick up, you're learning yourself. So you're looking at 1111. If the definition for 1111 doesn't match what you were feeling at that time, now you have to find the reason. Like, the reason that I saw this number was not based upon something being this. It was based on me getting to that. Ooh, child. And 3, 2, 1. There we go. 1 second. Ooh. Oh, I gotta grab another bottle of water. This changes the dynamic of how you express yourself. This changes the dynamic of how you are becoming the authentic self. Tapping into these authentic feelings of yourself, stepping into that space. Like, there's never a moment in time whether I'm at the gym working out, whether I'm at the grocery store, wherever I'm at, there's never a point in time when I'm not me. There's never a time when I'm not me. There's never a time when I'm not my authentic self. Since I'm always in the narrative of my authentic self, and I'm building this bridge for me in my mind. My bridge, I didn't build a bridge out of popsicle sticks and all types of good shit. Just imagination for your child. But you're sitting in that space, being in your authentic self. Your authentic self is free or in balance or awareness of emotion. Your authentic self is free in the balance of expression. Your inner self is free in the aspects of the balance of the knowing or the balance of the humility within yourself. I don't have to tell myself to be humble. And when I do, I become, this is the key. If I got to tell myself to calm down, if I got to tell myself to think about it, if I got to tell, this is based on me being aware. This isn't you're not basing it based on a bias. I'm getting a little too antsy. I'm getting a little too much energy flowing through right now. What is this energy telling me to do? Let me sit down. Let me calm myself. Let me bring myself back into focus. This is when you start going into the aspects of meditation. For me with meditation, I'm always in a meditative state. Even at this point in time, I'm in a meditative state. I spend most of my days in a meditative state. That means I'm in total awareness of my environment. Nothing like Neo in the Matrix. So when I go to sleep, when I go to rest, since I was in a meditative state the entire time in my space, when I go to sleep, I'm automatically leaving my body. Freedom, gone, out of it. But there's a key. The meditation is teaching you how to center, not clear your mind, but to address the frequencies that are going on within. Address these aspects within yourself. So now that you are now consciously aware of the frequencies and you're able to tell which one is which, you know which one is more of your authentic self. You know which one is still of your aspects of your ego that you're still working on. You know what aspects of your inner child. Because guess what? Guess who gets to go on the field trip when you go to sleep? Your inner child. Your inner child goes on the field trip. Your inner child goes into the dream world. Your inner child goes into that space. So one of the biggest things when I tell people I'm working on in their sessions, I'm taking them through the sleep therapy aspect. I tell you to lay back. I put niggas to sleep all the time. Go to sleep. All right, we're gonna calm down. We're in this space. I want you to focus on something. say I want you to focus on the beach. I'll use this as an example. Focus on the beach. While you're focusing on the beach, I want you to hear the sounds of the water. I want you to hear the sounds of the water. I want you to smell the air. I want you to see the seagulls. Oh, shit. I didn't know I could do that. Oh, that's cool as hell. Oh. Oh, that's dope. I didn't know I could make the screen bigger. We just learned something new today. I know I can make the whole screen bigger, but I can't see the chats. Anyway, we're just amazing ourselves. Taking yourself into that space. What you're learning in the aspects of your astral projection, because one of the trippiest things about astral projection, for me, when I first realized that when I went back into inner child healing, and I was looking at the moments when, like, talking to my inner child, talking to my inner self, talking to little Carlos, and we chilling and shit. He was like, does the bed shake? He would always ask me, does the bed shake for you? And I'd be like, what? Like, when you go to sleep, does your bed shake? I was like, you know what, little nigga? Yes, the bed does shake when I go to sleep sometimes. I always feel the bed shaking. Yeah, I used to feel that all the time. We used to feel that all the time when we were like 8 or 9. We used to get really, really scared. That's why we used to always used to go down the hallway and watch TV. Oh. Jump back into the future tense. Nigga, I've been astral projection the entire fucking time. You're learning these aspects that were shut off because you were doing it the entire time unconsciously. I remember my first actual astral projection, and I remember like my bed, like I remember like laying in bed and I'd be having like that good old sleep. And I remember laying there, whether or not I was in a relationship or not, and I'd be laying there in the bed and like the bed would start shaking and shit. I'd be like, and I wake up and I look around like, who the fuck shaking the bed? But I remember that first time I laid back, I let myself go. The key when you're going into your astral projections, more ownership work. Going into your projections is taking your inner child with you, allowing your inner child to go on the trip. Because your inner child is going to be able to illustrate everything within that space. Not all everything, because there's certain aspects that there's certain aspects that are only meant to be for you to pull back the information. Like for me, I've unlocked psychic scribing. So when I go into my dream, when I go into the realms, like for example, for last night after I did the ritual, the release, I was in the halls of Thoth reading everybody's human design chart. I don't know who these people are. In the sense of why the hell I was reading their charts and the information on them. But when I brought the information back to, I was like, wait, that's the next level of process. That shit is trippier than when you see yourself, you like, what the fuck? Like you just looking at yourself like, but that becomes your key. Once you become comfortable with it, like I've just sat there. There's been times when just practicing astral projection, just practicing pushing myself out of my body. I like be like over here on this side, like if anybody's seen the videos, like when I'm laying over here in my little spirit den, the little area that I do my work in with clients and everything, meditations, I be seeing myself like laying down and like I purposely push myself out of myself. And then like I imagine myself seeing myself as different things in the space. Like sometimes like I'll be in the space, I'll imagine myself as the box, or I'll imagine myself as the Buddha head or the box, or what would I look like as the crystal ball sitting on my altar looking at me laying down. And then you challenging yourself. This is you challenging yourself, playing around. This is you learning your aspects of yourself. But you only are able to truly do this when you have done the healing work. That healing work, and even within this, while you're doing these aspects, is teaching you the aspects of you healing yourself. So this is why I'm saying now is like once you get to a certain level of this, the book work, the book knowledge, and all of that aspect, you have to do internal work to bring the balance. See, most people are stuck on the external, so you depend on the external to give you your balance. Instead of you looking at yourself like, you know what? I'm going to go play with this. Here's one thing. Here's one that I shared in a fucking podcast episode, but I don't think I've shared in a lecture. And if I have, I'm going to repeat it anyway. Two of my favorite things to do after I leave. No, the one main thing I like to do after I leave the gym. One thing that I was doing before the whole COVID shut everything down was going into churches. Going into an empty church. Don't go in there when it's full, because going into an empty church, sitting in a pew somewhere, just sitting in a pew, just sit there. Sit back and close your eyes and allow yourself to become open. My man Beast in the Laboratory broke it down, and I was like, nigga, I've done that before. Just sit back and allow yourself to sit in the space. Allow yourself to open up. Let's see how true to yourself you are. Allow yourself to open up. All of the energy within that space will come into you. Based on the work that you have done, the internal work that you've done and bringing yourself online, acknowledging the different energy centers that are within you, you'll be able to filter the energy. You're not doing it. It's not based on thought. You're not thinking like, nigga, this is a church, fuck Jesus. You got to get all of that shit out before you do this. I suggest you get all of this shit out before you go do this. Strong ass suggestion. You can go in there and do it the other way, and you gonna bring something home that you don't want to bring home. Spiritual transmitted disease. That's a whole thing with you. But just go in there and allow yourself to be opened up. Just sit there for about 15 good minutes. Just sit there. And then walk out the building. This is you learning how to manipulate the energies within the space. Now, one of my favorite things to do after I leave the gym is when I leave the gym, by the gym up the street from me, there's a graveyard. And there's a graveyard right next to a church. In the middle of it, there is one tomb headstone. It's shaped like a spade or like a arrowhead, but it's all black. And it's in the center of the graveyard. Go in there, do my respects. I stand there. I stand in front of that. Stand in front of it, or sometimes behind it, sometimes beside it, whatever I'm feeling at the point in time. And I sit there and I gaze at the sun. I'm in a natural space of grounding. Now I'm sitting in this space and I'm staring at the sun. I'm sun gazing, and I'm in this space. So I'm pulling all this energy. I'm spirit bombing all this fucking energy into myself, filtering all this energy through all these old waves, letting a bunch of things go as I'm in this space. No thought, no agenda. That's pure openness into the space. Learning how to use the energy within the room. This is the same aspect that when you're going into your space, it's always free energy. Like most people, like when I love it when they say it, because I'm always like, more for me is like Thanksgiving, Christmas, the holidays. Those are the white man holidays. We don't celebrate those. Somebody's going to be releasing energy on those days. Why aren't you pinpointing and pulling the energy towards you, redirecting it? Why aren't you redirecting the energy? For the last 4 years, I haven't felt anything for holidays. For the last 4 years, I have not felt anything for any holiday. Yes. Allow yourself to become open. Whatever you're doing, because you're giving yourself the free boost. I don't fear. I don't. In my mind, I'm like Christmas. The aspects of Christmas that pop up are now the new images that I use to feed off or pull energy through. So motherfuckers releasing their energy, stressing out through Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and all this shit. I'm in that space knowing how to input myself into that space. Plain sight. Because after a while, this is the reality of it. Major deep shadow work. After a while, you're just going to be sitting there like, why do I do this every year? Why would I do this stuff? Why would I do this to myself every year knowing the exact result? Why am I constantly in this position based on this same result? If you don't understand it, it's because you have not understand the pattern. It's all about the pattern. The words are going to change, definitions and meanings. The actions are going to change based on the feeling, but the pattern will always be consistent. Even the most inconsistent pattern is consistent. I remember I had a whole entire dream of stringing together all of my inconsistent patterns in the most ununiform, crooked ass shirt ever. I remember like sitting in the space and I'm in the space and I'm watching these dwarves sew together this shirt, and they keep trying to put this shirt on me, but it didn't fit. But then as I'm sitting here becoming more in tune into the space and I'm bringing it into this space and meditating on it, I started to see the stitches and the patterns on the shirt were my inconsistent patterns. Once I acknowledged did that work, did that clearing of these inconsistent patterns, when I went back into that dreamscape, when I went back into that space, when I saw those same dwarves putting together the clothes, when I saw the same elves and shit putting together my shoes and shit, everything fit because it was based on the consistency of my discipline. This is you playing around in your mind. This is you getting used to your mind, allowing your inner child to play. Everything down here is food. Everything's down here is something for you to learn from. Do you want to stay within attachment? Or if you stay within attachment, you'll never be free. You'll always have a reason to be. You'll always have a reason to be the obsolete being. And you'll never embrace and build into the bridge. The bridge, I don't know where the hell that accent came from. The bridge of the absolute becoming or your authentic self. That's your major key. The authentic self. You are building into the authentic self. The authentic self is free of filters. The authentic self has control of the shadow. The authentic self has control of the ego. And when we're talking about the aspect of control, I'm talking about by the intimate, understands the intimate power in the infrastructure of the authentic of the higher self. When you truly start moving within your authentic self, you're gonna notice that you ain't mad no more. You're gonna notice that you laughing. You may laugh more at stuff that's not meant to be laughed at. Similar to a little kid, but like that motherfucker stinks. It's a level of awareness and openness and thoroughness that you can't fight. You're like, nigga, I'm just surrendering to this shit. This shit feel great. But it feels great to the heart. It feels great to the soul. It doesn't. So naturally the flow, remember that flow. Remember I've talked about the auxiliary aspect. So naturally, I'm indulging in the aspects that open my heart. I'm indulging in the aspects of opening my heart. I'm indulging in the aspects of the vulnerability and playing with the aspects of understanding what it is to be truly vulnerable. Vulnerable is my strength. My humility is my strength. Me moving in gratitude is my strength. Me moving in that power of myself is my strength. Anything that's contesting this, that is when I'm stopping. You're going to stop that process of trying to control all these minimal aspects or trying to stay attached to things because you don't have a dependency. When we talk about the aspect of dependency, remember that AAA, the acceptance, the awareness, the acceptance, and then the apology. The apology starts that process to the applying. So now that you're applying, now that you've apologized, now that you're applying, now that you went through the application process of learning yourself, now you can thank yourself. Yes, that AAA. That's going on a shirt. That's going on a hoodie. It's going on a hoodie. Y'all stay tuned for that hoodie. The hoodie's coming out. I'm putting the AAA sign on the hoodie. I'm going to do something real trippy with it. Yeah, AAA hoodie coming soon. Put yourself in the space to never, when we think about being unapologetic, it's based on your freedom. I don't have to apologize for me being free. When you start apologizing for yourself being free, when you're triggered, it's showing you an aspect that you're not yet free from. You're not free yet. It's okay. You got to build that. You got to build the infrastructure. You got to build that infrastructure. You got to go into the initiation for yourself to open up your infrastructure. It's not one of the biggest things when it comes to building inside of your shadow. Once you have now taken yourself out and you now have become aware of your shadow, you are now accepting of your shadow. You have apologized for the aspects that are within your shadow. Now you can start building in that realm. This realm is pure darkness. You control the light that goes into that. You create the new light within that space. But you can't take those attachments in there with you. You can't take those attachments in there with you. I promise you, you take them attachments in there with you, it's only going to end up worse. It's only going to end up worse. Similar to everything whenever the abyss story, the dragon mythos, when you think of the dragon mythos, or think about Moby Dick. Think about Moby Dick. This nigga was in the dark, choppy seas chasing a white whale. That means he was chasing an illusion of light of he put all of his projections of all of his failures into that space. And he said if he caught this whale, that it would be his ultimate experience. So think about the aspects of Moby Dick. Moby Dick, any dragon story, going into that abyss, you're only going to be fighting what you took in there. The only thing is in there, the shit that you took in there. The shit that you ain't acknowledged yet. I remember that process of going through that shadow and acknowledging those things and allowing them things to come to the surface. I was scared as fuck of the dark. And I'm not even scared of the dark. It made me question everything. Why do I have to sleep with music on? Or why do I have to sleep with the fan? Why do I got to sleep with the TV on? Or why I got to sleep with this on? Or why do I got to do this? It's because I was afraid to be in that silence to myself. I needed something in my space to keep me from overthinking or actually allowing it to come to the surface. Because you know, when you relax, your body regenerates. What is your body? When you go to sleep, your body naturally regenerates. What does your body regenerate off of? The thoughts. That's why some of y'all motherfuckers can't sleep. But some people can't fucking sleep. I sleep great every night. I'm out of here every night. We can end this lecture right now. I can lay right here and pass the fuck out. Great. Get a great good old 4 hours. That's all I need. Great. Be good. Because that's what you're going into. You free of the aspect of the thought. Until you truly become free of the aspects that you have, free of the trauma, and you have now redefined into your space and building that shadow, you can't even do the LLC mindset. Now, here's a key. Here's the factor. Here's the factor. Here's the factor. Here's something I just thought about. You can have the best business. Your business can flourish. But then you'll understand the pattern of why your business flourishes or why it goes down and up and it fluctuates. It's all about what you're using it for. That's the key to your awareness, is understanding what you're using these aspects for. That's the key to your self-awareness. What are you using it for? What does that mean? This is when you question everything. What does that mean? Why do I do this? Why do I do this? Why do I feel I need that? Why can't I break away from that? Why can't I take a 4-day? Why can't I fast? Why whenever I fast, I get the jitters? Why when this happens, you question everything. Separation requires elevation. Elevation requires separation. That's your key. That is your key. The old paradigm, what we're going to be seeing now is you're going to be seeing in real time the old paradigm battling the shift. What you're going to be seeing in this space and time at this point is what you're seeing now is the old paradigm fighting the shift. Now, here's the key. The old paradigm has always been fighting the shift. The old paradigm uses fear to maintain the old paradigm. The new shift is embracing everything within that space. So the next time, because American Gods comes back out, I think it's like January 10th. When you look at American Gods and you look at the new gods and they treating the new gods like bad guys, we're the new gods. We're learning to interface with everything in order to use it to our capability. The old gods are using the aspects of fear to stay relevant. Belief in that aspect of the fear narrative. The new gods are what we actually are. So the next time, when I looked at it, I was like, I like the old gods because of what they're saying in their words of what they're saying. But why do I relate more to the new gods? If I take the humility or the understanding or the knowledge of the old gods, this is when I now can understand why I'm becoming a new god. But it's only until you understand they're both two sides of that same coin. New gods. You're the new god. You're the Titan. You're the new as in being the old. That's you. That's what you're becoming. You can't fight that process. You can fight it. Fight it all you want. It's more for us. If you fight the process, it's more for us. And it's just what it is. It's not based off, but they can come with me too. As long as they do this, this, and this. That's attachment. There's a reason that you outgrew that space. There's a reason that you outgrew that shirt. There's a reason that you outgrew them pants. There's a reason that you outgrew them friends. Those old environments no longer going to serve you a fucking purpose. As long as you're using emotion, as long as you're using emotion or the intellect, the emotion, no impulse to create your intellectual foundation, you'll never build a bond in your genius. You can't step into the aspects of genius. It won't become great. You'll sit there and you'll always try to apply everything to the old matrix. You can create whatever the fuck you want in your head based on that thought. But all you're doing is projecting. From here, you project. But if this isn't in order, the flow of what you're projecting isn't going to come into it won't come into the true fruition of what it could be. Challenge that the old paradigm is yourself. The old way that you used to think, how you built things based on trauma. You were stuck within that space. You got some good things from it. We all got good things from the fucking trauma. We all got good shit from trauma. But you got to admit, I've said that before. You got to admit you have to admit what you benefited and got from the trauma. How you benefited from the trauma. That's self-awareness. How did you benefit from the trauma? If you got hurt when you were little or something happened to you when you were little and you now use that trauma and in this new space, you have to become aware that, yes, I benefited from that trauma. I benefited from the now because they benefited from the then. That's your balance. Once you understand that balance, you're able to use that to be able to navigate. Until then, you steady going back to it. You'll look at it, be like, yep, that happened, and you'll try to run that way. You'll always run away from it. Don't run from the pain, run towards it. I want you to be the fucking best. One second. This is all periods and oh shit. All right. I want you to be the fucking best. This is I wanted to leave a nice space of time for the question and answer period. Questions, they don't have to be geared towards the lecture and the thought process, but it's the question and answer period. Drop the question in the comments, and we can do that, build on that. Show that support. Appreciate the support, everybody coming through. It resonates with you. You in this space for that reason. You in this space for a reason. You in this space for a reason. You in this space for you're where you're at for a reason. It's time to embrace that reason and understand that reason so that you can now step forward. That's the major key. But yeah. No problem. Much gratitude. Remember, we are multifacets of that universe, all having a conversation. What I share is based on the experience. So what you share in yourself as you build yourself is for others to observe in that experience. Everything that I experience doesn't have to be observed if it doesn't resonate. That's what we're looking for. And everything that you observe, I don't have to experience. What I'm looking at, what we're gathering in this information is learning how to take from it to use it in our own space. Build your world, build your galaxy, build yourself up. That's your key. What's new? What is new in the world of the God Occult Alchemist? Oh yeah, human design charts. Y'all stay tuned for that. Human design charts analysis that's on the surface. You can book that. Oh, you can always book that. That's coming up in the next couple of weeks. Probably towards the middle of January, I'm gonna start pumping that out. Really pushing that. But you can set that appointment, book that. You can book that through now, just like whenever I'm doing something in aspects of something new. It's not new, it's just something that I don't like to do things that I haven't worked on with myself first. But yeah, everything from natal chart analysis, Still doing the natal chart analysis, shadow work consultations, human design chart analysis, readings, therapy. Shadow therapy is an in-depth. It goes anything from whatever we pull up based on the shadow, based on the consultation. So it can be inner child healing. It can be recent. It can be basically like everything's gonna revert back to inner child healing. So tap into that. What else? Readings. I want you to be the fucking best. I want you to be fucking great. I've been led to do a reading real quick. I'm gonna do a nice little reading. If the reading resonates with you and you want to build upon it, hit up the number 910-777-7708, or you can inbox me. If you follow me on Facebook, inbox me. Follow me on Instagram, DM me. Facebook is Rockholonegis. Instagram is Papa _ Lucy 666. You always can book through there, or you can go to the site, GodOccult-LLC.com. All that stuff will be in the description after I publish this video. But I'm gonna do a quick little reading real quick. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments and we'll build on those. But I'm gonna do this reading real quick. Ooh, as I shuffle my cards. I just ordered like some new decks. I'm super geeked about my new decks. Let's read the energy in the room, shall we? Ooh. What kind of decks? I ordered my Raven deck. I ordered a new Akashic Record deck. I ordered my Raven deck, my Crow deck, my Raven deck, and a new Akashic Record deck. Because I want to get deeper into the Akashic Records. Like I do Akashic Records. Like I offer Akashic Records as a service, breaking down, but I want to like when I use cards, when I use my decks, when I use my cards, I'm using these to illustrate the energy that I'm reading. I don't necessarily use the card as the reasoning. I use the card to illustrate the energy that I'm reading within that space. So yeah, I ordered my Raven deck, the Crow deck. I got a human design deck coming through. I got the Akashic Record deck coming through. Yeah, I got a couple new decks on the way. Ooh, child. Yes. Pull these other cards. Yeah. First card that we pulled was the Ace of Wands. Anybody out there feeling like they're in that space? The Ace of Wands illustrates the aspects of that new energy, especially now that we're in this new space, in this new energy. Now that you have the new energy, now that you are in tune with that new energy with yourself, it's time to start tuning that energy. It's time to start cultivating and working within that energy with yourself. This is one of the major keys. For a lot of people, for a lot of us, we come into the new aspect of the new energy for ourselves, that new power, that new focus, that new energy for ourselves, but we don't cultivate it. We don't really sit there. We don't sit with it. We're so used to an instantaneous build. We're like, oh my God, I got to sit back. This is acknowledging that you are in that space. If you don't cultivate it or you don't define that energy, then it can become things can attach to it because there's no boundary. Remember, we're going from the aspects of building that bridge of our authentic self to the higher aspects of ourselves. This is told to us in the Ace of Pentacles. Now that you got that new energy, now that you in that new space with your energy, how are you going to define, as I just said, how are you going to define that energy? The Ace of Pentacles is the aspects of understanding, defining, and cultivating that space. If you do not cultivate and define that energy, that new abundance, that new what's coming through, if you're not defining it or understanding why it's there, this is going to keep you in that aspect of what the Eight of Swords, right under the Ace of Wands, you're going to continue creating boundings to yourself because you're not becoming aware to it. As you look at this, this is a reflection deck, so it has two aspects on it. So you read into your energy. It's time for you to remove that blindfold and look at where you're bounding yourself at. Remove that blindfold. You're moving into the space and you're wondering why you're getting cut up. You're wondering why you keep getting stuck. You keep wondering why you keep getting tangled up because you're not removing the blindfold to become aware of your space. But it's okay. Once you come into this state of that awareness for yourself and you start being more aware and start reflecting internally, this is going to lead to the aspect of your energy in the Ten of Wands, which illustrates the aspect of it would no longer, when you look at that Ten of Wands, your energy somewhere in here. So a lot of y'all got a lot of shit going on in your heart right now. A lot of y'all got a lot of aspects with your power right now. A lot of y'all got the aspects of the confidence of your new self, the confidence of the new being. Those shadows and all of that stuff, now it's coming to the surface. The 10 represents the aspects of the completion. You're at the completion of that stage. The only way you're going to be able to embrace this completion of that stage is by allowing that release. When you think about the New Year's, this is a moment of time for you to release. This is a moment of, it's time for me to release things. It's time for me. What do I need to let go of that I'm holding on to my heart? Why is my heart heavy? Why is my power seen? Why do I feel that I have power, but I don't know how to direct it? I feel confident in I used to be confident in myself you're basing your confidence based on what you were attached to. You're basing your confidence based on how others attach to you. That's no longer working. Now that you're in this aspect of your connection, that leads us to the aspects of that Four of Cups. Four of Cups dictates you trying to hold on to all these things. You trying to hold on to all these damn cups to keep your energy going, to keep you in that space, to keep you able to move undisciplined, to keep you moving in a space of, I love so fucking hard. No, you're loving undisciplined. You're trying to hold on to that cup of independence when you need to be putting that cup down and understanding that it's time to go into self-sufficiency. You need to put that cup of attachment down, that cup of prearranged aspects within yourself. It's time to put that shit away. That shit's not going to work anymore. You want to be free? You want to proclaim that you're the higher aspect of yourself? You want to proclaim that you're authentic? Guess what you got to do? Always leads back to the shadow work. Always leads back to the work. Always. Always leads back to the work. Cut those cords, remove those tethers. If you feeling that constriction right now, you feeling that constriction, that's illustrated in the aspects of the Hangman. You got comfortable being down here, being able just to hang out and just let things come to you. Now it's time for you to really do the work. That's the aspect when you look into the Hangman card. That's the aspect of you actually doing that work. Putting yourself in that space of being like, you know what? Let me suspend and surrender. Let me suspend these thoughts and surrender to this process. Let me surrender now to this process. As you start surrendering to that process, you're going to be able to start nurturing that energy. You're going to be able to start nurturing your stance because now you surrender to the process. You're accepting that is a process that you got to surrender to. You're surrendering to the aspects. It's time for me to start nurturing my inner child, nurturing that inner aspect, nurturing that, actually start going through that process of the guidance of the work that I need to do, allowing myself to be guided, allowing myself to be vulnerable, allowing myself to be open, allowing myself to be open within that space to myself. Allow yourself to be open to that space inside of yourself. That's going to be a major fucking key for a lot of you, a lot of us moving into this thing. Because I said it Wednesday. That relationship that you're wanting, that relationship that you desire, you're going to get it. Go look in the mirror. That job, that dream job that is going to bring you into fulfillment, you're going to get it. It's called shadow work. That vehicle, that vehicle that you're wanting to drive, that dream car that you want, that's the vehicle that is going to be led as you're driving down, as you're taking yourself down that path of that shadow work. That dream home that you want, that dream space that you want, guess what? It's in that shadow. Allow yourself to drive into the shadow. Meditate. 4-1 represents meditating in that energy, allowing that energy to do what it's supposed to do. Stop trying to take it here, over there, up. Stop trying to take it everywhere. Allow yourself to sit there in that space. Learn that shit. Stop making the excuses. The excuses don't work anymore. I'm telling you that from the fucking bottom, because I used to have all types of it. I didn't realize how many excuses I had until I realized how dependent I was upon certain external factors. So I married myself. That goes into the aspect of the Knight of Cups. Yes, these are seahorses. That goes into the aspect of the Knight of Cups. How are you moving forward and how you fill your cup? I've said it before in the aspects of filling your cup. In order to move forward in filling your cup, you must first acknowledge what's already inside of your cup. And that's going to lead you to cut down a lot of shit. You're going to be guided to cut out a lot of things. A lot of things are coming out of your life right now. Allow that process of them being cut out. Allow that guidance, because you know what needs to go. You know what doesn't need to be there. You know it. Stand by it. Build on it. Become it. You got one or two choices. Evolve or repeat. You got one or two choices. That's evolve or repeat. It's lit. Once you embrace yourself, it's lit. It's beautiful. It's fun. It's everything that you ever imagined plus limitless potential. It's limitless potential. Your potential, your true purpose, there's no limitations. So if you feel limits, that means it's not your true potential. If you feel you got to keep changing, and if you feel you got to keep changing and tweaking things in that space, and you're not expanding, you feel like you can't expand, it's not your true space. It's not your true potential. That's the main key when you're coming into your emancipation. It's the main key when you're coming into that proclamation of yourself. I desire you to be great. I desire you to learn yourself, love yourself, marry yourself. Marry yourself. Heal them aspects of the masculine, heal them aspects of the feminine, bond them shits together, marry yourself, become the divine union, and then in reflection, as you become what it is that you desire, everything shall flow naturally. Connection over attachment. Allow the overgrown, allow yourself to outgrow shit. Allow yourself to expand. That's gonna be your key. I appreciate this. I appreciate everybody stopping through. Yeah, I appreciate everybody stopping through. We dropped a lot of information. If it resonated with you, allow it to go deeper. I want you to be the best. I love you. We love us. Ashe.